for most of you, you can see we've come a very long way, even having this hall to have this exhibition. So I'd like all of you to congratulate yourselves for also coming and supporting this. Okay, so without much ado, we all know the reason why we are here. So I'll call the competition coordinator to give us a brief overview or background to this competition, after which we'll go to the main object of the day. So let's welcome our competitions coordinator, Augustus Richardson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary Fifi, and thank you all for making time to be here today. Indeed, it is a very proud moment as I stand in the very hall that we have all known for years, looking at what it is right now, through the efforts of so many members, and indeed all of us who contributed in one way or the other in diverse ways to make sure this happens. So a round of applause. I'd like to take the opportunity, maybe first of all to say that I'm quite disappointed at the attendance as of now. I'm only going to blame it on Friday and people being busy and all that. Normally you would think that on a Friday, as you wind, we only knew the submissions as submission 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I say that because 9 submissions came, 2 were late. Another hallmark of what we are doing. If the time is 3 o'clock and you come at 3:01, we will not accept it. 3 or 4 competitions we did in my tenure. I remember the third one, at the time the board of the ARC had been installed. And the board chair, the day whose firm is Vista, and Professor Salapia, who you also elected onto the board of the ARC, they came at 3, the deadline was 3, they came at 3:06 and 3:09 respectively. We stopped them. The line was drawn. There's no, no, we will not accept those things. And it is an attitude we must take in competitions, because at the end of the day, we want to be fair to everybody. I asked the members that assume we had accepted it and they won. What will we say? We will say that they are up to what they are doing. So we kept this competition very fair. Indeed, to our panel of adjudicators, Architect Round, Alisa Safaji, Daniel Tay, and we selected people who are up to the level to mark these things. And we always publish who the jury is now. The jury report is pasted there for everybody to read and to comment. And these reports are also sent to the participants and indeed to the general membership. It is important so that people know, once you put your name on there, if you write, excuse me, nonsense, we will adjudicate that you are misbehaving, and we will know what kind of person you are. So now that we open this opportunity up, indeed the Npra, who are a recipient of this competition and therefore the winner, the Venerable Joseph Aiko, who will be joining us very soon, are very happy with the process. Because if they'd gone another way, somebody, a lot of government agencies are having problems with being called corrupt. And so this process has taken a path that will ensure that, it's something that we do. Indeed, for the Institute, I must say, I don't know if Foster has received it yet, but they are writing a testimonial to the Institute for the good work that was done. We are hoping that that mileage, and through the hard work of current council, who are informed has met the Council of State to push that we need to stop this thing of just handing over projects to friends and family, which destroys our landscape. I think that we're going to do very well. So, in a nutshell, great work was done. I'm very happy that the winner has been selected. I must say, client is also very happy with the winner. And today, the meeting, and which will be a practice after every competition, will be that the winner will stand in front here and present the thinkings, the work, that they did, and hopefully in a summary, because the work itself speaks for itself. But we may learn something from it, and we'll improve ourselves as an issue. So that's it. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak and for always serving you. I'll give the mic back to Fifi, who will introduce the speaker for the day. Thank you.
I'll run through this presentation which was submitted, details of the site, what we watched out for, and how we came to form the building aspects, and then the conceptual processes the sketches which my team put forward and the guidance given and the scheme itself, how it came off my drawing board, and then the design drawings and the people visualization. I think you all know the site. Maybe I could switch to Google. I wish I had a pointer, but it's a very difficult site. I mean, if you look at the shape of the site, it presents you problems if you're trying to design. And then the traffic, how to route traffic to the place and how. It's a whole subject for traffic impact assessment. And going forward, we need to do a study to make sure that all the properties along here can exit onto the M1 in alternative ways, because the planning there needs to be. I think in the permitting stage, we will have a precise plan put together for submission. But having said that, we have deferred that thinking to another time, and this is the site and the access that comes from it. You will realize that the site slopes and brings all the rainfall down into the Jolu stream, which goes along here. So it's a very critical point about it. You will see on the client's topo study a water course that goes through there. We're very familiar with this location by Providence because we worked on 335, which is right opposite the site. That's 335 you see over there. And this whole stretch from here to here of the M1 floods seriously because of infractions in the water courses that are delivering water from the top down to the grade. So we sort of had a close-up look at this site. I think the president himself did a scheme for this site, also understands the true or not. Yeah. So it's not an easy site to get right. Apart from that, the client's requirement to have a phase 1 and phase 2 merging together into something that was also something that brought us difficulties. So it's not an easy site. Very close up to it. There are some sketches that give you a sense of how we intend to do this. My team struggles with how to get this thing done, and then I had to come in and say, this is the way it's going to go. And that's how come we came back and saw the logic in the phase 1 and phase 2 and pathways and all these things that, I don't want to go through them too much, but we understand that we have a north-facing advantage. So you can have some glass there, you can change the zone and then the east and west. In every situation, sometimes you don't get so lucky. 335 was the same. It had a south facade, and so you have a good road coming N1 and all that. So all these advantages and disadvantages as well informed the way we were supposed to go about this. I'll just run through. There are these sketches. I'll leave, when questions come up, I'll leave members of my team to look at, to make comments on this. But they are conceptual and they lead us to the way the shape of the building, they lead us to how the curve which symbolizes the play between your physical strength and your financial strength, which was a great idea from one of my Okobi come here and talk about, which inform the curve that you brought to the side. They know I like curves on the sides, and if you're going to pick this thing up, but I put a curve on the side many a time. So they will talk about that. But it was developed and it had a strength to remind people of pensions. The idea that you must always be thinking of pensions when you have strength and putting money away so that you can have financial strength in the future. So this was really the difficult part of the scheme, how to build phase 1 and get the cores of both buildings to merge and then get a tower out of it for commercial purposes. But the sketches here are there for you to see. As you look at it, you'll see that you needed to give phase 1 a certain length of facade. So it informs the shape that we have there. If you look at this here, it informs that shape. And then there's a parking lot there, which the advantage of climbing the tower from there and merging the core, and how you get traffic onto the parking levels, how you are able to get basement access. And so on, all these factors have to come together to bring a solution that works. They are very, very sensitive. And then the core design itself. I have seen some very bad cores designed, and it's at the heart of any office building, any multi-story building. You've got to get this right from the very get-go, making sure that the vertical transport is adequate to that the vertical services, staircase pressurization, power, refrigerant, condensation, all that fits into the core. And then getting the core to be as accessible and out of the way, such that you harvest daylight for tasks. So ideally the core must be in the heart, and then you put people in the daylight areas and so on, and try to catch all four sides. Except for phase one, where we know we're going to attach, so we're looking at it from that. So these are the things that the points that informed the site. And so this is what came up. Phase one then stretches that way to give certain latitude to the project. So if it takes them 5-10 years, they still have a stately building which fronts N1. We needed to be careful about the easements, especially on the front. We're in excess of 700 something. I also wish people are asking for 6 on a particular project we're doing, so we're quite current with that. And so you have it very simple. There's frontal access and exit, and it goes through, and you have parking for phase one. You also have basement access, and phase one is good. Then you kind of realize about parking 5 years, 10 years from now, it goes up at the top. And it works very well. And you merge the cores, and you merge the receptions, and so on. It works very well that way. But not an easy thing to put together, because the brief is very, very challenging, and the shape of the very site itself. And so one of the things that is most important is getting the structured parking, the ramps to go around the core, and sort of rhyming that with the entrances. At every level. As you spiral, you must hit certain door levels at a certain location. So when you go section, you know that at this level you're entering the core, at this level you're entering the core. So all that, of course, further refining will go on. So that level, this is the basement, phase 1's basement. You come in, they will have the usual cells. Those are shuttle lifts that take you from the basement to the ground floor. And then following up phase one looks very simple. It has a good reception there. It has a core, wet services, a staircase area. On the ground floor, you're looking at meeting rooms and training, etc., etc. People don't have to go further deep into. We are a little familiar with the SU offices and the fit-outs that happen there, and so it informed our thinking about how it should progress. Having said that, after a competition, there's always a re-engagement, and you basically start to redesign the problem, even though the concepts stay. So all this will form the beginning as the basis of further design. It might stay, it might not. So you've got the ground floor, the access here. We've got an entrance garden here, which is very important for me to set the mind of the entrance to a very soft and quiet and then there's a parking on that side. All the spaces I talked about. Then you get to the proper floors themselves. In office design in this country, there is always a toss-up between the cellular office and the open plan office. While out there, outside of this country, in the developed world, people are moving away from cellular offices, and there's a whole trend. I've actually designed offices in the Tigo office building, where at the end of it, the CEO took his office and said, take it away, I want to sit with my people. And we have done a very elaborate office with him. So that trend, corporate worldwide, is more open plan, interactive space, collaborative space, and so on. When you come here, people are very sensitive, especially in public services and so on. People are very territorial and hierarchical and so on. So in our re-engagement in most of these offices, we need to tease out and also educate them the value of you. So what we have done here is a fair split between several offices and open plan offices, which we are going to. We started a space planning interview process where we field a questionnaire survey to them and we fill it out. We study the organogram, we interact from department to department and make sure that they feel that the building is theirs. And we get the questionnaires back and we input into a revised stage 2 design and go back and interact with them. By the end of the process, they checked out on everything and they're happy to go ahead and work with that. We may end up with this balance of several offices and from our experience in the past and open plan offices. So that's phase 1. Similarly, over here we concentrated on more central options, but some open plan, looking at the balance in how we're going to go forward. But this will clearly be validated by the re-engagement we're going to do. So you've got these floors and then you go to the roof where there are these services. We're going to test the extent to which these services, these facilities are going to be sampled by them. But there is a gym, there is the catering, cafeteria section, all those services that are in the brief, but as you design, you want them to recommit and look at the resizing of it properly. So as it looks now, it looks great for their needs, but we're going to test that with pure interaction and sign off before we go into documentation for tender. So I think by and large we have phase 1 covered. Now we're looking at phase 2, where we have cannibalized the parking lot and put a tower there. And it has the ground floor. There is no basement under the tower. You've got to think structurally about how you put a tower next to a current building. If we had done the tower before the smaller building, that wouldn't be a problem. But now we're doing the smaller building and we're going to go deeper in foundations, and those discussions we had structurally with how to extend columns and setback and so on. So all that we have done here takes into account that interfacing when the time comes for that to go on. And so you have a very important part of the tower, which is the core, which relates to this core. This link there is very important. How we merge two links and get the reception to merge them. So on this you have the parking, you've got the core, and then you start to travel up by going. There's a ramp that takes you up onto the upper floors for the parking. So the next floor here is the parking level. You keep going up. I think there are, this is the first floor plan as well. It's a parking. The important thing is this ramping that makes sure this is parking on slope, a trick that we use and it works. The core design is important. The staircase pressurization, these spaces that are for fire protection to make sure that smoke doesn't enter the staircases and there is a fire. People can To me, the biggest test of any office building success is the core design, and it needs to be And all your engineers will weigh into it and make sure that it works before you move ahead on the next step. So that is the core that we stand by in all its aspects. It works very well. So you've got the parking levels until you get to the office level. It keeps going. This is the third floor. Then we get to the office, typical office. So this is the fourth floor, and then the fifth floor, the office starts. Open plan. So, typical office floor, open plan with a core. Now you need to look at how we do a typical space planning of it. Sorry, I'm going down. Here again, this layout is doing the counter thing, which is putting the cellular offices on the Windows side so that the big men can, or those who have the right for cellular offices. Typically, what we do is that we try to put the shop floor guys near the windows, create very nice layouts for them, and then we put the cellular offices around the core. The shape of this building is such that we have a very long length of windows, so you can have lots of cellular offices on the windows, and then still have open plan offices with meeting rooms that also have the joy of daylighting. This is just one typical way. We're going to test these layouts, and we're going to work with the organogram and make sure that every department is happy with the location and the layout, the space planning that they have. So that process is what we're validating. We simply put this typical layout there for to illustrate the density, the occupancy density, which is about 8.1 persons per square meters persons per square meter. Sorry, 8.1 square meters per person, which relates to the total floor area that we have, and then it runs into the budgets. So the top floor, we have the auditorium, training facilities, etc. And then we have the services. You've got to leave plant space. Plant space on the top cafeteria. Sorry, the level below has go back. This is also open plan seating offices, possibility for multifunctional use. Then the top, moving up from this, is where you have the cafeteria. The cafeteria leaves room for services, and then tries to look out on the N1 and the open areas there. And then you go to the gym. This is an oversized gym. We're going to test it and make sure that they are happy to have a side of the gym on this when the time comes. But in the end, being a commercial property, this is probably going to have the dictates of the commercial market, and so the brief for this will not necessarily be NPR's brief, it will be what the market will require. If NPR grows, it will only go into a small part of the town. So here we are with some sections through phase one. I haven't talked about the roof that comes over the cafeteria levels. That's where you have the solar panels. You've got there's an entire roof with the PVs. And that's what's over the cafeteria. Sections through the tower. I think I'm coming to close of my presentation. You've got a sectional perspective that gives you a sense of how phase one looks like. one of the things we do is to give you a key plan there which orients it. If you have time and you look at the drawings, it helps you very quickly to orient yourself. And so, elevations, the curve keeps appearing, reminding you of financial stability in relation to physical stability, financial strength in relation to physical strength. The curve which reminds you of your pensions. And so these are various elevations. So, I think I've spoken enough. I would like my team to very quickly, 5 minutes. The gentleman must have been in the next one. So, we'll start talk a bit about conceptual aspects, anything I've left out. And then Julius, who joined Multicad just this year, is doing very well. And he's going to do the interiors because he did very good work on the interiors. And with good guidance, he's got a very good soft touch to this. So we'll go over to you. Come on. You can scroll. After that, we will do the recap, and then videos will be, I think, materials for the regional as well. So please, they don't have much.
Good evening, everyone. So I'll be very brief, but succinct. I think Mr. has said it's pretty much all, but what I can add to it is one of the key considerations we had was shading. We know the issues we have with the heat in our offices, especially because of where we're located in Npra. So one of the strategies we employed was the use of vertical shading, and these were strategically positioned at, especially at the northern facade and also the south, to help to shield from the sunlight that the solar ingress that comes in the office throughout the day. So the visuals, as you've seen, also try to orient the viewers as to how the two phase 1 and phase 2 integrate with each other. So as you saw before, it was just phase 1, and now we see phase 2 behind. And this is a view from further back, showing phase 1 and phase 2 together. This is a view from the northwest, from the northeast. And this is just capturing the landscaping that we have upon entry. And as Mr. Ifod mentioned, just to create the ambience for the users and also for visitors. This is a close-up of the interior, the indoor garden upon entry. See? And I think I'll let Julius quickly talk about the interiors, and then we'll quickly move to the regional head office. The regional office.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening. So for the interior spaces, basically the idea was that we'll maintain the story we're telling on the exterior space. So with the curves and the graph, we wanted that to be throughout the interior space. We decided to also settle for natural colors that would calm down the nerves of whoever is coming. I mean, especially because pensioners obviously are stressed enough about their money. And the idea that they can come to a space where they are sure that their money is going to be taken care of, and to be in a space that relaxes them, I mean, already gives them the mentality that, oh, this is a firm or this is a company we can actually entrust our money into. So that's basically the idea. So for the minor design elements, we try as much as possible to maintain the same design concept. So the desk, the lighting, everything like that ties in with our design.
Use the kerosene.
Okay, so same here. Even for the backdrop, I feel like the backdrop is one thing that particularly shows exactly what we said in the initial design. So we have 3 different shades of cool colors, but then still exude the curvy forms. So for the lift lobby, we're also looking at very light, very gentle colors, not too harsh, but that are appealing as well. News neutrality as well. Another shot is this will be. Okay, so then that's basically.
Okay, so let's take it through that.
Was the prototypical office block for the Npra, and they intend to have one of each in all the regions across the country. I think I'll just wrap up on the design concept really quick. As Mr. Npra had mentioned before, the graph, the curve is symbolic of financial strength and physical strength, and that element also is shown in the regional office. The vertical shading is also present in the regional office, and as we go through, you see that these were all carefully considered, especially with regard to the building's orientation and the piece of good tropical design. So these basically capture the conceptual massing and the conceptual massing behind the building. As you can see at the top, we basically plan out how the site will be organized, a service area where the office will be located, identifying the different accesses. So that's on the top right. So we have identification of the different accesses for wheelchair, PWDs, people with disabilities, for pedestrians and also for vehicles. And then we have an office, typical office block, which we basically extrude, and then the various design elements come in to form the rest. So we have the roof that frames or that covers the rooftop, which is actually one of the potential revenue generators for the office, for this regional office, which was also part of the requirements. And then we have a function to capture the bottom left as well. So one key thing is that the building is oriented with the longer side facing north-south. That we were able to harness as much daylight throughout the day for the office spaces. And that on the south facade where we had a lot of glazing, we employed the use of vertical shades to keep out a significant amount of solar ingress.
That's a quick note. This is the ideal situation, the ideal site that is not facing, etc., etc. So we know that there will be a varied, the hospital project.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is only
Site constraints.
The ideal situation. There will be clearly sites that we have to do a lot in order to make
The concept is spoken of already. This is the door facade which we know shouldn't have too much glazing, so we left it with horizontal windows to at least allow some lighting. This is the west facade with adequate cantilevers for shading as well. This is the east facade. And then this is a sectional perspective just to give a sense of the building in section. We can see the double height section of the bottom left, the level space above that, and then the rooftop space also. Another sectional perspective. This is one of my favorite shots that you guys have done. I think from here, I'll let him just talk about the visuals from the exterior to the
Great.
Thank you. Basically, the idea is to create a design that wasn't so, or a visualization that wasn't so imposing on the viewer, has like soft touches so that it's not overwhelming, let me say. But in that simplicity, the attention to detail as well would bring out its beauty, its aesthetic. So then we can see, we can appreciate the glass glazing. Basically, we can see how effectively the shading is working. So then this is the other facade, basically. So with a shot of we have like parking spaces and landscaping. And then the shots from the southeastern side, southeastern vista. And then from the southwestern side. And then we have an area. We also wanted to obviously harness the potential of the sun, so then we decided to have solar panels. So then another area. And then the interior. So then for the interior, an idea was for the same as the head office. The idea was to also keep the same design concepts basically going through. So then we have the backdrop in the table communicating the graph basically we have. So even as much as they're not so carefree, they still depict those two elements we spoke about. With soft materials such that it's very calming. We have a lot of daylight in the space. So the volume of the space and lighting creates a sort of an uplifting feeling when you enter the space, and that's exactly what we're going for. So then we have a shot facing the entryway. And this is a shot that's from the top. So then on the first floor, looking down at the reception area. And then now the manager's office. So the manager's office, we still maintain soft subtle colors. You can see our shading elements there and how our shading is blocking out a lot of heat and our sun, but still keeping it as illuminated as possible. And then the view in the manager's office facing the seating area. And sort of an aerial of the manager's office. Another shot facing the seating. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. So just to close, I want to just say thank you. Thank you for this event. Family event like this, we share, we interact. I'd like you to ask questions now, or even when you have had a good chance to look at the drawings in detail, and you may have seen something that we have missed. We don't know it all. We'll engage and interact. So we have a Q&A. If there's anything you'd like to ask, Mr. President.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
First of all, I want to congratulate President Clifford and his team. This is really outstanding. I love competitions. I was very eager to come and see what other people are doing. I've been taking pictures, stealing ideas. So, no, seriously, I most especially like the thoughts processes and the visuals. I mean, I find them awesome, seriously. I find them very pleasing. And the quality of the renderings and things that, I mean, these are the things that I want to go back to my office to tell them that people are doing some serious things. So I'm very happy about it. But having said these things, which are truly my comments, I want to engage more in a technical conversation. Can we look at the floor plan, for example? I mean, where it was showing the phase one. Let's start from phase one. In the presentation, I was trying to say that the location of the core, and it's you have a building which in phase one is an L shape. Then the core is located at one end of the L. So it brings us a lot of circulation. If you go to the next floor plan, you realize that everybody else on this arm of the L, we are having to introduce a long corridor walkway, even though by your open plan, it doesn't make it obviously a walkway, but it is a walkway to have to go all the way to where our stairs and lifts will be. So yes, I rightfully say that the design of a core, if you get it right, is the major part of an office design. the flow in the core itself, I love it. Its position vis-a-vis the rest of the floor plan, I find it that it brings us into a lot of circulation. I mean, to everybody else down there, yes, you could use the escape stair to your bottom right corner, but there's no lift provision there. And then the circulation space in front of the stair and lift, the proportion of it carried on each floor. And if you look at it, to either end of that circulation space is leading nowhere. And we could have been spared space. I mean, so I'm looking at, let's say, towards here or towards here. So it's like a huge circulation space carried on each floor. The design of the washroom, for me, in office design, it robs us of any daylight, even though we are on a perimeter, because you put your ducts to the outer perimeter. So I would have thought that if we reworked so that the washrooms tend to have their duct internally, then on each washroom floor, you could have also gained daylight into the space. But because of the way it is worked out, it means that your duct is your perimeter wall. So no daylight could possibly be coming, or not much daylight could possibly be coming in. I was expecting possibly a janitor's place or a cleaner, something. I was also looking out to see that, be the pensioners facility, in your washroom provisions, will there have been a disabled provision for each of the washroom?
That is in the re-engagement.
Okay. Then possibly on each floor as well, could there have been a kitchenette of a sort, knowing how our food habits are on each floor?
This is a 3-story.
Okay.
With the cafeteria sitting at the top. But let me answer the other.
Okay. Or maybe I go through.
Yeah.
Okay. So on this floor plan was mainly for me the circulation and then the location of the core vis-a-vis the rest of the floor. But if the as phase 2 starts coming in, I kind of think that yes. Okay, the one before this, the floor plan just before this. No, okay, maybe it's that one. So what I feel is that I feel phase 2, especially this part of phase 2. If you look at, is this your ground floor? Yes, the ground floor. And then the subsequent floors. I think that the determination of this span, I find it very effective on the office floors, but I find it wasteful on the floor plan, on the parking floors, because it suddenly gives you a very huge space where nothing can be done there. So it's very possible for me then that think that maybe what could have been done is that on your lower floors where it was being used for parking, the sizing of that width ought to have been optimal for parking. So if it's car, 6 meters, if it's circulation, 7 meters or whatever, another car, that ought to have been the decision to size it. Then when you get to the upper floors, if you were to open out so that you optimize office space, but on the floor plans where you're using as car park, it's certainly not optimal, and there's a lot of spaces there that it could have been done a little better. Still on phase 2, is the elevation. I suddenly find a very exciting elevation. I'm just thinking that for where it is in Joru or that part of town, maybe signage and things that could have been seen from many places could have been also very helpful. I mean, I see that there's the attempt at the signage on the phase 1, which is fine, but given the height that you gain when phase 2 comes, I think it gives us a brilliant opportunity for the skyline to have something of a signage in there.
Okay.
I think this will be my comments basically for, but let me say I'm very excited with the presentation. I've looked at some of the other presentation, even sheet sizing, the consistency of it and all of that. I mean, presentation itself, very, very nicely put together. Rendering quality, as I said, quality of floor plans is something that I take note of, because even from my office, sometimes when we do these things here, we may get very exciting elevations, but the floor plans don't seem to have excitement. But all your floor plans with the furniture and the kind of renderings, and it seems to be really exciting. So congratulations once again.
What you have commented, I've taken some notes. You will realize that in a design of this shape of site, there are trade-offs. The grid that in any multi-story project that you have, you start with a grid, and for certain economic reasons at the top, you are maintaining the same grid downstairs. So there are these trade-offs that inform your design as you develop, and they come to you as you go on and you trade off. As we go further into design, when costs come up, perhaps we're going to look at, are there any other ways of mitigating some of these observations? Okay. Now, the linking of the cores drives the position of that phase one core there, and it's a trade-off. We took clear travel distances. Oh, okay, all right, that's great. Thanks. We took travel distance relationships to be able to do this configuration. Yes, it might seem like a long walk, but if you look at the
Press the red. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. If you look at the travel distance, it's actually a small building, really. And so, yes, I hear you on that, but it's a trade-off. The whole idea was the building is really this, but if you want to stretch and get a sound facade for the next 5-10 years that they will be.
I think that's great.
So long as it meets the travel distance criteria and the fire escape issues, we're sort of working with that. Now, let's go into detailed design. Perhaps something will come out with that.
President, I forgot one thing. It's about the floor-to-floor height.
Floor-to-floor.
The sections, can we see the section? I kind of thought I saw something 3 on something.
No problem.
Maybe the sectional elevation.
Yeah, the sectional elevation.
The sectional perspective.
Any of them.
Oh, okay.
Not the sectional perspective, the sectional elevation. The section.
The section is off.
That's, yeah.
This one.
Or in any of
This
them.
one.
Yeah. What's the floor to floor?
Ground floor is about 4.2, and then the other floors are what, 3.9. Is it floor to floor, 3.9?
Okay.
We always work within that range of, we have raised access floors.
So this section is taking the levels for the parking. The parking is 285.
The parking is
285.
smaller.
Okay, so that was the question. So in the parking, because when I look at phase 2, the phase 2 seems to be tied floor to phase 1.
The parking, don't forget, the parking is a spiral parking.
Okay.
And so it runs along it. So the only time it coincides with phase 1 is when the cores merge.
Okay.
And the travel of the parking is on its own trajectory because of the spiral. So
I was
it's
just very curious, because I thought that if we're doing a 3 point something, which is fine for office, but then gives you suddenly too long a ramp for
that's different.
Okay.
Then the other comment about the restroom areas, and Oku came to me well after the competition and said, we need to look at the handicapped situation. Moving into design, we're looking at all these things, and we've taken some notes. We'll ensure that these things come up. There was the space within the phase 1, the corridor. I think that may be something that's necessary because a lot of people will converge. It may be slightly oversized, but I think it's happily oversized because everybody, if you go to the other floors, everybody is going to go through that. Everybody is going to go through that space. The entire office focuses on that. So we'll look at the sizing, but it looks like because of the volume of, that's the only location where you have that convergence of everybody there. So, and it looks a bit oversized on the ground floor, I agree. Having said that, I think that detailed design will bring some of these things out and we'll take it some notes. So thank you very much. We appreciate this interaction.
Thanks.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Past President Antete. And let me also congratulate you. But when they picked up and we saw the amount of work that this submission had done, we're like, what happened to the others? But the comments from the jurors made clear a need to be very conversant with the site. I mean, like I said, we worked on this site sometime we saw it as a challenging site. Never went through because I think they don't want to even buy the site to start. Great work, but let me ask, when, if you can go to you can go to the second floor. Wherever you have the cellular packages to for phase 2. Okay, all right, okay. So, well, I don't know the time, but I think that having all these cellular offices here and those here. And having
Yeah.
having these cellular offices here and there blocks the natural light that comes in. And
The fit out, if you go to our humans fit out, so we've done it now, you realize that the principle we do all the time is that all those walls are glazed walls, and you filter in light into the corridors where, so there is a certain level of daylighting that gets into this open plan space.
yeah, okay, so I was thinking, yeah, that is fine, but in addition, is it possible to throw in light walls from the rooftop?
Well,
to so that wherever you have this, because if it is going to filter through this, by the time it gets here, it is reduced. If it's going to filter through this, by the time it gets here,
yeah,
it is reduced.
there will be some supplementary. The light will take up a certain volume of space that will kill the occupancy level
Targets.
that you want to have.
And maybe not a wall like a column-like wall, but to have glass lock on the floors. So yes, so you chopped it like that, and then from the top it comes. So you have your skylight on top, and then it filters through.
It's an idea to try, but there's a software that we use in Ridge, when we cut out, the Ridge was when we cut out the building to show green light into. We would use that to sense that a light well in this location might bring a certain level of lighting. But having said that, my concern is how the planning, the space planning, the furniture, and so on. Once you take a shaft through it.
So it wouldn't be a shaft.
How would
It wouldn't be a shot, so it would be the same floor. So for instance, if we take this 600 by 600, is it by glass instead of?
you mean something like glass blocks on the floor?
Yeah, and it wouldn't be the normal glass block, but about 15 millimeter thick glass, which could be 600 by 1.2 meters.
And
on all floors.
The
ceiling.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
in the roof,
yeah.
you have your skylight and then.
Okay. Great idea.
Okay.
Send me an invoice. we can test it and see.
That we realized that, like you said, I think President Foster had said that he worked on this site before. And what was remarkable about the site was that it didn't point when it rained. And I was like, that's interesting. So as we walked the site, we realized that there was actually, currently on site, there's a huge drain that's been built by, I don't know whether it's a government, but it's infrastructure built all the way to carry water from that side all the way to the drain at the back. That drain at the back is going nowhere. This is a natural course that runs even underneath the Bellagio and so on and so forth. So we picked that out, and I must say that I think this and another scheme were the only ones that remembered that this was there. In this design, you proposed that the 1 meter deep culvert to be redesigned closer to the wall so that you can gain space, but still kept that there. In other designs, what you will realize is that the competitors took that drain out altogether, which is crazy because actually the drain is underneath the road, carries the water from the north and ponds on that side. So the response to site itself was wrong. This is number one. Number two, what you also find out is that a lot of these competitions request for geotech reports. The geotech report tells you that on this section, and this is what I found genius about this, there was basement parking, which was kept purely in front, if you look at it. But there was no basement parking left there. Why? Because they did a number of trial pits on this side. And the trial pits tell you that as you get here, the varying levels are 1.5 to meet water, and 3 to 3.5 was in the front. So in some of the competitions, people are actually now suggesting 3-level basement parking, which was, shocking to say. Did you really read what it is? And again, what you also find with this for me was just this ingenious, because you have to read the brief to appreciate what it is they did. The client made very clear that phase 1 would come now, and they didn't even know when the phase 2 would come. And that they were going to wait to do a phase 2. We suggested as the institute to them that no, if you want to design now with the thought of a phase 2. So let's get the competitors to think about it, because you're not going to have another architect coming to do that. Let's get one person to do that. And when they responded, what I found interesting is that knowing that phase 1 will come and we don't know when phase 2 will come, phase 2 was separated structurally from building 1. Other competitors, and you look in the drawings, actually link the two buildings.
Really?
And this learning is dangerous, because building setting, I don't know how you're going to connect a second building to the next building. And then again, even in some cases, the basements were to be built, and this is what you said, the basements were to be built in conjunction with the whole basement. I'm like, it can't work. The structured parking, I haven't told nobody anything. If you also look at the area requirements and the parking ratios that were met with the building, this was critical. I mean, eventually when the whole building is done, it sits at about 2.23 square meters per 100. But what your report did not even write, which we did the calculations for, was that in phase 1, it beat 4.4 in parking for. And all of these things are important for us to design proper office buildings. Please go again to the floor layouts. My question, and maybe my suggestion, is, of course, go to your next floor. Go to the upper floor. Right. Just say it. The upper floor. Go down. So again, back to what I think SM was mentioning. My only comment, personally, was I know it's tricky, but unless my knowledge is off, fire stairs. If I stand here, from here to that fire stair should be between 15 to 18. So it gives us about 30 meters of a gap, which you can see per your grades happens along this section. But what happens then, if you come from this section, as in trying to put fire stairs equidistant enough? Because if you take a number of grades, you have 1, 2, and these are 8.5. So 1, 2, let's say this would be 5. let's say 1, 2, 3, it definitely beats that distance. And you look at how far can we get. So in my side, of course, I'm not a designer. I believe that when you go through the processes for even fire permits, it looked more like it would be here. But again, when you just suppose it with the facades, it didn't work. So you could sort of understand why this was happening. I'm wondering what will happen when it comes to fire. This is number one. And then you can also go to the central core. Let's have a look at the central core. Phase 2. Phase 2. And of course, it's CSM. We understood why eventually this happened because we were trying to tie 1 and 2.
No, the link here is pretty.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but again, the distances to the extreme.
Yes, from here to here, it's just for me the central, because it's very easy within this plan to put the auditorium actually here. But again, when you look at the facade, you get the logic behind it, so we leave it there. But when you look at phase 2, and now you see it here, but go to the parking level. Right, now again for me, the question of the distances to staircase, it all seems central here. Nobody will have problems coming from this side, but I felt like, from a distance point of view, they didn't meet the fire requirement expectation.
We will do a fire report. I think that this will need to. We will have a fire engineer research Mara do a study, and we'll see how it goes. At this time, we simply work with our knowledge, but he will do a proper fire study.
I mean, you could see what the sense was that there was going to be a point in the middle. It may spread or whatever it is, but it's very clear that it's in the middle and then you have the rest of it happen. But I think all you know.
This distance, if you know, it's like the SU tower where you don't have a core, a hard, but you've got a wing and a wing and a core.
Yes.
And so I need to check or get him to do the study. And
yes.
I think
no, the thing is, unless I'm wrong, and this is what I was just trying to find out. I understand from the core to where the last person is like 18 meters or so. And if you look at it, this is more than 18 meters. So, just a thought of eventually when you detail. I'm sure there's a process to do that, so I'm sure that will happen. Again, please also go to the interiors. And this is where, I commend your interior team for the work that you did. In this building, the client had asked questions about branding. They have a branding, just maybe for you to know. There's a branding officer there. I don't know if you met him. And he believed that the glass of the building should be green because the Npra uses green. And we had to explain to this guy that branding is not about color. Indeed, the board meant that branding is about values. And I think that you captured very well in the concept that you did. But for me, I said to him, well, when we showed it to them, we didn't show them the whole interiors. I said to him that when he sees the interiors, he will see the respect of the color, the branding, the greens, and so on and so forth, which still links to, if you go to your mention, you will see this wall here, the subtlety of the colors and how it worked. And I think that a lot of people carry.
I love this.
Exactly. They carry this. So congratulations to your renders and the thoughts that went into it. But the level of thought here was deep. Because it's not, a lot of us just make buildings colorful, green, orange. And I asked them, which round color is it? Phantom water. It's always a problem. So carry on. And just how it got connected. I mean, the subtlety of the interiors is just mind-blowing.
And for aged people,
yes,
it seems colors in which aged people can
relate to.
Absolutely. You said you didn't have a disability. I think you did have a disability in the second tower.
Yes.
But not in the first. The phase 1 didn't show disability, but phase 2 does. Yes, phase 2 does show. And again, in the regional offices, there was no disability. So maybe that's where you may just need to consider those. Again, also what we found was that the ramps they used here were 1 in 10 ramps. In some of the competitors' ramps, the ramps were 1 in 6. 1 in 8. This is happening in a lot of buildings locally. And it's criminal. I mean, I was wishing that members would be here to hear it directly. It is criminal to make a 1 in 6 ramp, which is destroying people's cars. But here, you realize that clearly the ramps are all 1 in 10 ramps and taken very seriously. So, Mr. Hayford, we looked at the work, we did thorough work to identify the process, and we must commend you for showing that they are very happy with the product. I believe that's a business and not on the landscape. Thank you very much. You want to use this?
Yeah. Okay. So what I've observed is that it gives us an opportunity to design these columns, because though the landscaping here is beautiful, but somehow these columns
Take away.
yes. I mean, it probably don't need to be as blank as they are. So it gives us an opportunity to just design these ones. I think it will be exciting because what you have here is beautiful. All that is very beautiful. But these columns don't look as if you didn't think further about it. Then there was the interior, which Augustus, the reception. It's something to do with this, yes. So it's in physics or something, you call it oscillation. So whilst the curves on the elevations look very beautiful because the oscillations were very kind of shallow, this is a little acute. So when you have oscillations like that, though, it plays a little hard on the eye, but on the elevation, especially the one you did for the original, it was such an elegant oscillation to go to the original. And then this light, though, its height is probably just about my head or something like that. So again, you probably need to look at all of that. There are things I fight with my staff about. So, to the original one. The original one's oscillation was amazing.
How is?
The exterior.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Oh, okay. But you see, in the original, again, on the floor plan, I would probably question the location of the core. Go to the floor plan. The location of the core on one end, it suddenly introduces a length of circulation, which, I mean, again, because like as President was saying, in the original, a site hasn't been given to you to restrict you, so you have the freedom, and so your circulation or your core could have been central, and then it suddenly reduces your whole circulation here. Is this 2 or 2 point something meters, the corridor width?
2 meters.
It's 2 meters, okay, all right. But the elevation of this, the 3D,
beautiful.
This is beautiful. I mean, so you feel that it's not so acute in terms of the oscillation, and it plays very nicely on the eye. For me, again, when I look at elevations like this, though, I question the glass because I'm looking for where your mullions and transoms are likely to be. So I'm asking, is there no horizontality of it?
This is an exercise for facade design.
Right.
The mullions and their location and how the fins tie in with the mullion. Fins are integrated into mullion positions. So
yeah, with the mullion, but then with the transoms. So in this design, there seem to be no transoms. Now, what I question is that if, let's say, you take this floor and what your spandrel here is, as if that is where your ceiling void is going to be. I know that it cannot be because slab plus ceiling void is going to be.
you can have the ceiling come.
But because of the transparency of the rendering, it's as if the ceiling and all is part of that spandrel. Right. But I mean, this elevation is stunning. It's so beautiful. I love this, and it's one of my best in the whole and all the shots. So seriously, as we said, congratulations to the team. This is more of technical conversations we are having together, and we just have to say this is excellent. This is excellent. Congratulations.
I think one other thing should also be carried the report itself. It's nowhere on this, but in your report, and we calculated, and you stated it very clearly. I think what is critical is that core designs, and in some of the designs that were presented, the floor area, assume it was 1,000. No, the floor area assume it was like 1,000 square meters. Was offering almost 300 square meters to circulation. When you look at what was designed here, in the first phase, the circulation, that's the lettable space, the sellable space, was sitting at 85%. If you read Npra, it tells you have to work between 15 to 20%. At one point you are up. But for you to reach 85, that's
I honestly though, on that, I think that this submission is not very clear on circulation.
Oh no, it is.
No. Because you see the floor plan that I showed you, by virtue of the location of the core, you are going to have to do a lot of circulation.
No, you should see. No. You make a mistake. You make a mistake.
Because it's open plan.
There is going to be circulation between the spaces. That's not calculated as circulation. The circulation we are talking about is the circulation from lift or leading you to useful space that you can rent. Because within your office, if you rent this, like for example, you cannot call this circulation or that circulation. The circulation is outside. If you rent this space to me, you are renting this square area. If I decide to circulate, that's my business. So when you look at what he did, when you take the core alone, it's not only 15%, but even further in phase 2, the circulation now decreases to 13%, giving you an 87% sellout. From a selling point, there was a document about sales of the building, which made sense. This sells properly. There were other competitors who were doing 70, 60, 30% use of space. No, are selling all of this to the clients. Which he will come and do whatever. So that 80, it rises, but then when you get to the region, because those corridors are there, which is understandable because you have to move from fire escape to fire escape if it makes sense. It's still there close.
Okay. It's got to do with the columns. These columns. I know the span. What is the span? What's the weight of the building?
It's 12. That's from here to here.
12 meters.
I'm sorry, 10.5 from here to here.
Really?
Yeah.
You can't it's not 10.
And this 4 to 5, and this 2.
That's right.
And this 4 to 5.
Like 6.
And
But when you add the extension,
No, you don't
no,
know.
you don't add the extension.
so just a column here.
5 plus 2,
That's a grade.
10, 12.
12.
Yeah.
12, yeah.
So I think with 12, you can eliminate
The columns are there.
the columns.
Yeah, you're right.
And then increase the length of the
Yeah.
columns for the.
You're right. We can easily keep one line and increase the span of 1 to 6 point something.
No, but in fact, even this, we can increase that one,
And remove the 2%.
This.
Yeah, you could put them cantilever of that.
Yeah.
Like almost all the portal free. I think it's okay.
Yeah, that works. Thank you.
Okay.
Phase 1, traffic on the ground floor, to parking to the ground. Then there's the pedestrian access which leads you through this archway garden to the reception. Yeah. Okay, so this is the two, I think it's clear.
So is the second access point services the tower? Is that it?
No, it goes into the reception. Mind you that the reception is joined to the tower when the tower comes. But for now, for phase 1, it's going into that reception on phase 1. And at that level, there is a connection between this building and phase 2. So all reception can be handled at this level. There's also a reception after the structured parking as well. In the phase 2, you understand? Okay. So this reception here, the client was clear that there's going to be a connection between the two, and therefore this reception is conjoined to the phase 2. So it's at that location, so that you, as a pedestrian, you come in, and that is where you'll be attended to. You get as a reception.
The first entry.
Yeah.
It's as you go to the back of phase 1, that turn there is extremely abrupt.
If you look at the drawing,
This is schematic.
this is what
No, this is Let's
check it. It's almost how about 7 meters.
I think we can very quickly. I think that is straightforward. Put a software and that shows the 10, and we can always adjust.
But look at it.
Yeah,
Measure
it's very
so wide
wide.
this
Yeah,
approach.
It's wide.
yeah, it's very wide.
That's 7.7.
So then you
There was a good schematic of
it's not true. It's that way and this way. Where you come out from, let's say, so
that way it works. I wanted to hop on this drainage. This is something that is dear to my heart, and I like the way the coordinator helped on it, because all the sites that are here have flood problems. And the N1 itself, when we finish 335 and this rainy season will be a test to see whether that problem still occurs. Now, the property here, what they have done is they put a pipe in the ground and closed it off. And because it was poorly designed, it creates a backing of the water, floods that. And all the other properties must drain themselves properly into the Jolo Stream. So a lot of there's something that came to me, and I think I want to share this knowledge. We're just doing a building for WICAP, the West Africa Reinsurance on the airport. And we went into the code and realized that it is now a requirement, of course, subject to the code being ratified and put through, but it's now a requirement that if you put up a building, you must have retention of stormwater outside, equivalent to the roof and hard surfaces that you have put there, to help mitigate the flood problems that we're having. And we calculated the size of storage that we must have and where we must have it. The cost is not easy. So let's all be mindful of this thing. The site is in a location where there's a flood problem. It's opposite the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, somewhat in the Patrice Lumumba, Amelka Cabral junction there. And the last season, the videos of the floods were terrible. And so we are committed to designing that retention that is required to mitigate. But the neighbors, right next door is a Turkish developer doing two towers of apartments. Engaging with them is hell. Now, how do we alone do this if others haven't done it? So this is a dilemma. And the municipalities haven't gotten wind of this. But when they get wind of it, anytime you walk in there, this will be a problem. What's that? You are part of this this requirement.
No, I think
it's a good thing. There's no doubt.
It's good to do. So it's development control. We have to support the assembly to make sure that the business are implemented. But for your information, a new LI has, I think, been gazetted and Washington, but I've not assisted in the north. And that is back in the
for the code.
Yes.
So very soon it will be passed into law.
It's already passed.
Really?
Yes.
Can you send me that?
I will just.
When was this done?
It was done towards the end of last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd love to see that. So, colleagues, I think we've taken up enough of this.
I mean, this to be very good, because this is like practical education. It's very, very different from like the theory we study in school. So, thank you.
Thank you.